Welcome back to the Smugglers Den. This is episode 20. I'm your host, Tiny Grimes, and as always, I'd like to thank SW Destiny for their generous hosting. Make sure you go there for all kinds of cool articles, everything. They have all the new spoilers from Spirit of Rebellion up. You can go to Broken Egg Games for your gaming aids. Put TG Games in the discount code coupon at the end. And you can go to Patreon, Tiny Grimes, and join the discussion about all the new stuff. I've got so many deck ideas, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of them today. But I'd like to welcome in my co-host this week. Thank you so much for returning, Mike, the founder, the host, the man of SW Destiny. How you doing today, Mike?
Doing good. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, no problem. It was just an overwhelming clamoring. People were like, if you don't bring Mike back on, I'll never listen again. Pretty good.
Well,
pretty good.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. So Mike, I don't know if you knew this. There were some pre-releases this weekend. All the rest of the cards were spoiled, and I do want to. I gotta backtrack real quick. FFG, I'm sorry. I said some things. They were wrong. I said I was really upset with FFG because there were no pre-releases in like all of Los Angeles, and all the stores called FFG, and they were sold out. Well, it turns out the distributors had them, and it was not a problem. And Los Angeles had about 39 pre-releases. That was an exaggeration, but there were a ton. Mike, how many were you able to get out to?
I was lucky and crazy enough to go to 6.
Yeah, see, I have a family that on the weekends does not like me to leave the house all that often. And so I got to 2, and I was very excited to do so. So what kind of what scores did you get? What were the big ticket items that you got? Let's start with how many legendaries did you pull?
So I pulled. I'm going to call it 2.5.
Hold on. I don't believe there's a half purple card in the set. So
no, it is. It's like a weird color. It's a mix between like purple and green.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I pulled. Actually, I pulled a 4-speed, which was the big one that I actually really wanted to pull. And then my second 2. So I'm actually counting 4-speed as the 2, and then the other 2 each as a quarter. The other 2 were Baze and Quad Jumper.
Oh, interesting. I will say this. You might know I have a YouTube channel, and on it I said I thought Baze was terrible, and he's just flat out worse than Poe. And because of that, no one will play him. And someone commented on that video and said, "You are an idiot. Baze may be the best legendary. You heard it here first. He will be the anchor of the best tier 1 deck." And I was like, I don't know how to respond to that, so I won't. I'm not going to say something mean to someone who takes the time to listen to my channel. I really appreciate it. We'll just have to agree to disagree, sir. We'll just stop there.
I'd love to see it because now I have one.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be perfect for you. So, yeah, that's interesting. So you got an amazing one, a garbage one, and one that seems good in Hyperloop maybe, and nowhere else.
Yep, pretty much. In a deck that I will probably never play.
Yeah. So I did pretty well also. I got no legendaries. Cool. We can move on now.
All right, sweet.
Yeah, no, it was the pre-releases are sort of interesting in that way because our area had so many. It was kind of weird because it's like, so we all go to these pre-releases, we go to the shop on Wednesday, and everyone's playing awesome decks with like, I got 2 4-speeds, 2 vibro knives in my Poe Ray deck, and you're like, well, we're playing with a different card pool at this point then, man, because I got nothing to go in my decks, and your deck is a Spirit of Rebellion deck, which has a huge power jump, so why are we playing each other? This doesn't even make sense. And so I don't know about you, but for me, I kind of have not a negative feeling about the pre-releases, but I've come away kind of in like a, I don't know, like a rough after period where I'm like, ugh, now we have this month of like muddiness where it's almost worse than the beginning of Awakenings when people couldn't get their stuff. You literally cannot get this stuff. I don't know. How do you feel about it? Do you feel a little weird about where we're at right now?
The only thing that I think makes it weird is the fact that the set doesn't actually come out for another month, which, yeah, I think if the set, came out this weekend, if in Magic they do it where the pre-release, I think it's 1 week, it might be 2 weeks, before, the actual set comes out. And so you're not playing for very long without all the cards that you want.
Yeah.
So to have it be an entire month is a bit strange.
Yeah, I think it's way too long. I mean, it's
Yeah,
cool for building hype, and that's great, but I don't know, like in an area where they didn't get pre-releases, or our area, which has the reverse problem where people went to 6, 8, 10 of them and have a pretty decent card pool. It just leaves for everyone. It's in a weird spot. If you didn't get any Spirit of Rebellion, right, you're still looking at the new cards for a month, going, oh
yeah,
man, I'd really like. You know what? I'm kind of tired of all my decks. I'd kind of like to build this cool deck, but I
yep.
can't because the cards aren't out for a month. And then on top of that, layered on top is the fear of, and will they actually be available? Like,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we all are kind of assuming that we're going to be able to get packs. What if we can't? Oh my goodness, it's going to be really bad.
That would be quite bad. I'm kind of sticking my head in the sand and hoping that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I keep telling people, don't worry, we'll be able to get packs. And then if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I have to believe we're going to be able to get packs, Mike, or
Yep.
my head will explode.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
All right, so I want to talk about just 2 of the pre-releases. They were the 2 I went to, but I feel like they make a good point for where I'm going here. The first one, we went to Green Tower Games. It's a store I'd never been to, kind of a long drive, but it did something really cool, which I don't really think they were supposed to do, but that's okay. That's okay. What they did was they had 2 12-person events instead of one 36-person event, which meant there were extra packs. And instead of just selling them to people, they actually did a tournament and let people play for those packs. And they made a pretty deep cut. So, there were only 12 people. And if anyone in the top 6 got something, which is pretty good. It was weird because it kind of defeats the whole purpose of it, right? If you build a fun, cool deck, you are not getting any packs. The person who played Django Veers with the whole bunch of stuff they got from other pre-releases had basically a Spirit of Rebellion Django Veers deck and just crushed everyone. And so it was this kind of a weird scenario, but what I liked about it was the generosity, right? This person could have easily done several things. Buy 12, this whole other box I have that I'm giving away. I'm giving away a whole box as prizes, or I could sell them. I could just run another 12 people in here at another 10, 15 bucks a pop and make a whole pile of money. This person decided that they weren't going to try to do that. So I was pretty impressed by that. Did you have any other events like that, Mike, where a shop owner really went out of their way to kind of build goodwill with the community and use this event for that purpose?
I think that one definitely stands out. And I didn't go to the same one that you did, but I went to the one at that shop directly after the one that you went to. And I kind of liked it. I had mixed feelings going into it because I didn't realize that that's what it was going to be before that day. And then in the morning, someone was like, "Oh, did you know that it's a tournament at Green Tower Games?" I was like, "No, that's kind of dumb." And my assumption was that it was a tournament where we go and then get 1 pack, 2 packs, and then the rest of the packs would be for the prize support, because I didn't realize that they had only 24 people instead of 36. And since they did that, it was actually kind of cool. And that was the event where I opened the 4-speed, and in that same pack was a fast hands. So
did you win that event then?
I got second place in that event. I lost to a Django Veers deck. The guy that played it pretty well totally wrecked me with an arm to the teeth, in the middle of a game too, and then all of Django's upgrades were removed, and then I killed him right after that, but it was too late. And then I go look at my deck box after the game, and there's 4 strike just sitting there, and I'm like, oh man.
Wait, so in addition to everything else, you played an illegal deck?
Yep, I was playing a 29 card deck with only 1 4-strike.
A worse illegal deck. That's really a bad spot to be in, Mike.
Yep, not the best place.
So my event, I don't know what happened, Mike. I am ultra competitive, right? You know me. I don't even really play around with bad decks. I just don't believe in it. I don't find that to be fun. So I opened nines, FN 2199, whatever, and I'd been playing a nines Plunkar deck online with Death Trooper, and it had been doing pretty well. It had Imperial Inspection, lots of disrupts to bounce cards to hand. Of course, I didn't have any of these cards, right? So I don't have Disruption. I mean, I don't have an Imperial Inspection. I don't have a Death Trooper. So I see a guy who opened Unkar, and I was like, oh, I'll trade you Luminara for him. And the guy's like, sure, Unkar's garbage. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I was like, oh, I could put Kylo and have 32 health. This is kind of bonkers.
It's a lot of health.
I threw this deck together. I put in flamethrowers and thermal detonators, and Mike, it was probably the worst deck I've ever played in my life. And I played it in maybe the most important tournament of my life because I really wanted these 6-packs, knowing I wasn't like you guys who were getting to go to 6 pre-release.
Right.
This was it. Oh my god, I was so upset with myself.
Oh
I went 2-2 with the deck, and this is gonna sound weird, but man, I'm proud of that. That deck was so bad. It couldn't do damage. Every game, I milled myself because I was trying to do 9 Sting, but I don't have any of the good weapons, right? So half of the weapons I would put on him would not roll damage. It was just ridiculous. My opponents were laughing, right? It'd be like, I'll put a weapon on 9s, I'll roll it. It's a blank. Okay, cool. I'll overwrite that with another weapon. Oh, that's a blank. Oh, that's nice. I'll roll out another character, re-roll them both. They're blanks. Okay. I mean, I seriously had 3 opponents just openly laughing at how terrible the deck was performing.
Oh my gosh.
I won 2 of the games. Another one I should have won. It was one of those things where mistakes were made by the opponent that gave me ample opportunities, and my deck was just like, no, man, have you seen me? Have you seen me? I'm terrible. You are not winning anything. Be thankful you won 2 games. So here's a tip. Don't run Unkar, 9s, Kylo with bad weapons. It just doesn't work very well. Doesn't work.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, I know. It's surprising. And after the first game, right, I played a Luke Akbar deck, and I won barely. And this person I know is not a serious Destiny player. They were just there for the fun event. And I almost lost in that first round. I was like, oh, no. This deck performed very poorly. I got milled against Luke Akbar. Is that ever a thing? How could you possibly get milled against Luke Akbar? You know how? By not doing any stinking damage.
By literally doing nothing.
Yeah. All I had was health. It was like a meat sack. I just put down a meat sack and was like, just punch me. Just punch me till I fall over or I run out of cards first. One of the two.
Oh my gosh.
It was really bad. But I went 2-2. I got a single pack and didn't get anything good in it. That's not shocking. So yep, that was my my time at Green Tower Games. But it was a really cool event. I do want to say this. I am excited to play there again, knowing that the owner was that willing to build bridges to the community with this neat event. That makes me think, oh, I'd never heard of that shop. I would have never gone there before because it's just too far away. But now I think, that's a shop I'd like to go to.
100%.
Okay. I also had an event all the way on the other side, Mike. Also kind of far from my house, but this is a shop that I used to go to every week, Game Empire in Pasadena. It used to be run really well. There's a guy there, Davis. He was amazing. He really reached out to the community. And it really was an example of how 1 or 2 people at a store can really make it feel like a home. Like, we really felt like we were going to the shop. It was like, I don't know if you've seen the show Cheers. It's pretty old now, but it was like walking in and having people be like, Tiny, you're home. Have a beer. Have a great time. Like, that's what it felt like going in there. And it's kind of declined over the last several years since he's left, and that's fine. But we went anyway. We paid $15 ahead of time. We pre-registered. I read the event closely. I called the store twice to confirm that I was indeed signed up and I wasn't missing anything. No, you're all good. Come on over. Okay, cool. So we drive the hour 10 minutes to get there. We roll in. They're like, okay, cool. Here's your promos for your $15. Would you like to buy any packs? And we're like, oh, cool. Extra packs? No, you can only buy 3. Wait. I already paid $15 for the event. Yes, you did. You did. You paid $15 to walk in the door. Welcome to the store. Would you like to buy any packs now? I couldn't believe it. I came with John, who's a co-host. He almost flipped out. Like, he was so mad. His face is red, and he's like, oh my goodness. It was
That's
really bad.
absurd. That's not cool.
Yeah, we were very surprised. I actually took a survey on Facebook. Just, I wanted to see, like, maybe I'm making too big of a deal out of this. And it turns out that $25 with nothing else added was the highest in the whole country, and in fact the highest in the world. Out of it was like 180 people responded. It was the highest in the world, except for one other store in, I think it was Australia, that had the same price, but it was because the monetary ratio makes the product way more expensive over there.
Right. Yeah, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I got the privilege of playing at the highest, the most expensive place in the world, getting, of course, nothing in my packs. Like, if I'd opened a 4-speed, I would have been going, yeah, I mean, that sucks, right? But I got a 4-speed, so I'll shut up now, and it's fine. Also, when we walked in there, they had, like, a major event going, another event going. There was, like, elbow to elbow, no room. It was a terrible experience. I was frankly very surprised at just how bad it was.
Yeah, that's really a bummer. I mean, I don't even know what I would have done. Like, I want to say that I would have just walked out. But like, you drove hour and a half to get there. Like, you're already, paid in. It's like, it's so hard to leave after that.
Yeah. And this was only, I could only go to 2 events, period. It wasn't like I could walk out of this place and go to another event. That's it.
Yeah.
I can either not get Spirit of Rebellion cards or pay $10 more for Spirit of Rebellion cards. If someone were to knock on my door right now and say, hey, dude, for $10 I'll sell you 3 Spirit of Rebellion packs, I would say, sure. In fact, I'll give you 20. From that perspective, I feel like you can't, at that point, you're all in, right? You spent that much on gas already. Like, you can't just walk away.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I'm sure next time you will, line up a different shop.
Yeah, there won't be a next time.
Release. Yeah.
I have a firm belief in the 3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah.
This store already had a couple of strikes, and that strike was like a triple strike all on its own. So it was a deep strikeout. But my question to you is, did you have any experiences anywhere even similar to that where it was negative, or were all 6 of yours at least neutral to positive?
Yeah, pretty neutral to positive. One that I went to, they had an event two days in a row because the first day they didn't get enough people to sell out all their packs. So the second day they didn't have any signups or anything like that. So we got to the shop early enough to get there when it opened, and then kind of walked up to the line to get packs, and my buddy was going to buy his and mine. And he was the last person in line to get packs, and he was only able to get 3 because they had just sold out. So it was a little bit of a bummer, but thankfully him and another guy kind of split their 6 with me, and we each opened 2. And it was still a fun time, but yeah, that was a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, that would definitely be unfortunate. So I want to use this to talk to stores for a moment. I know not a lot of stores are watching this, but I want to put this as plainly as possible. So the way I'm viewing Destiny is it's different than what you're used to, right? If you run Magic tournaments, there are enough Magic players where you can treat people like garbage and you're fine, right? You're not going to be the most successful Magic store, but if there's enough traffic, people are probably going to come in. With the LCGs that FFG runs, it's sort of the same thing, only the opposite. And what I mean is, not many stores run the LCGs. So even if you do a poor job of it, if you run it, people are going to go, oh my goodness, that store is all in on LCGs? Awesome, that's our store. Whereas with Destiny, I feel like there is, quite a bit of money to be made, kind of like Magic, only not as many customers. And so I feel like, especially in Los Angeles, where there's about, I don't know, would you say maybe at least 15 stores that are trying to get in on this game?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, so somewhere between 10 and 15.
Okay, so if there's 10 and 15 stores trying to get in on this game. There's only 7 days in the week. I'd say that's a max of 7 stores that can be big time in this game. I'm thinking probably about 5 are going to separate themselves. So the other stores aren't really going to make much money in this game. They'll have, of course, if there's product availability problems, yes, they'll sell out for a little while. But once product's actually available, they're going to lose a lot of money by being greedy now or incompetent. It's not clear to me whether Game Empire in Pasadena was being greedy or just simply incompetent. I don't actually know what the answer is there. But the point is, I won't be going back there. My play group won't be going back there. Everyone I've talked to has said, oh my goodness, that's ridiculous. I would never play there then. And so I think as a store, even in this period where you can be greedy or incompetent because there's enough product or not enough product, you need to be very careful that if you want to be a part of this game that's going to make you a lot of money, do it right. Be careful about it. Be smart about it. Don't be greedy in a time where you can be. This kind of stuff backfires on you.
Yep.
All right. I liked your profound response, Mike.
Enough said.
All right. Let's move on then to a more fun subject, and that is all the cards are spoiled now. Mike and I have been talking about some cards we're excited about. It was very hard, but we decided to limit ourselves to just 3 cards that we're interested in. This is not about power level. This is not about, this is good. I predict this will be the best card or a top meta deck. They're just cards that seem very interesting that we want to talk about. So do you want to go first, Mike?
Sure. All right. So the first card that kind of, that I have direct experience with is called Battle Formation, and it's a 0-cost red villain event. And it has ambush, and it says count the number of red characters you have, and you can re-roll that many of your dice. So very simple, pretty straightforward effect, but I got completely wrecked by it last night. So I was playing against my buddy Rob, and he's playing 3 Death Troopers, which I was very impressed by.
He already has 3 Death Troopers?
Yeah, yep.
This is what I'm talking about, man. This is just killing me.
Okay. Rob opened 9 legendaries.
Yeah, that disgusts
a
me.
box and a half worth of legendaries. It was insane. But yeah, so he ended up trading into 3 Death Troopers. And last night I was playing against it. I'm pretty sure I was playing Beta Raider. No, I wasn't. I was trying out Ventress Dooku.
Ooh.
And he had a few Death Trooper dice out on the board, and I think a F11 maybe. And he played this card, counted that he had 3 red characters, and rerolled 3 of his dice and dealt 7 damage to Ventress and killed her. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like,
yeah.
You know those games where people are playing, Phasma, Bala Trooper, Django, Trooper, and they play Tactical Mastery, they reroll, and then they blow you up.
Yep.
It's that, but in 1 card. And it is pretty sweet.
I mean, the way I look at it is it's basically unpredictable, only better.
Yeah, mass unpredictable. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you're going to have a red character left if you're playing this in your deck. So if everyone's dead but 1, it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
If you have 3 to 4, because you could run 4 red characters, then it's even crazier.
Yeah, then it becomes pretty nuts.
It's almost an auto kill at that point on a big character if you have a couple pluses sitting there without the base damage, and you get to roll 4 dice and you hit 2 of them even as the base, then you probably kill somebody.
Yep.
Yeah, this card could end up being what makes decks like 4 Troopers viable. I always felt like 4 Troopers was cute but flimsy, and it just didn't quite hold up. This could be the card, and also with that TIE Fighter pilot.
Yeah, I mean, because it's going to be trooper, pilot, and you're not going to be able to remove anything.
Yes, exactly. And so it could be really scary. Okay, I like your choice. Very interesting. I also am going to choose a more interesting choice. If I can find it back. Okay, I don't know where that one is. We'll look for it in a minute. Instead, here it is. I found it. The price. Oh, sorry. The price of failure. All right, so this is a zero-cost blue villain event that says spot a blue character and defeat one of your characters to ready a character. So it's kind of like Noble Sacrifice, only Noble Sacrifice says defeat your awesome character, and this one says just get rid of all your chumps. And so the way I'm viewing this card as being amazing, and this is very much a magical Christmas land scenario here, is where you play something like single die Vader, 2 troopers, or somebody awesome with 2 troopers, and then you're able to keep Vader alive by doing things like best defense, cannon fodder, whatever. And so you have a late game Vader with, say, 2 lightsaber pikes and a Kylo saber on him, and the price of failure, and at least 1 alive stormtrooper. So you get to basically roll your loaded up Vader twice. Maybe, Mike, you get lucky, you have endless ranks also, and you get to roll him 3 times. I don't know. That sounds crazy to me. Like, it sounds like, all right, this is a close game. It could go either way. Vader just destroyed the world, and I lost.
The upside potential there is insane. The 5 times that you're ever going to be able to do it, but it seems like a lot of fun. I'm definitely curious to try it out.
Yeah, I feel like it can be pretty reliably done once a game. I just feel like if you're running Vader 2 troopers, they're not gonna try to kill the troopers. Like they're gonna try to kill Vader, and so I'm pretty sure you get to do this once. The question will be, will it be late enough in the game where you get a lot of value out of it, or is it just like Vader and 1 weapon? And that becomes the real question, I think. Yeah.
You have to do it at a point in time when Vader, has enough juice to be able to just kill somebody.
Yeah. We'll see. But it looks interesting. All right, what do you got next?
Next up, I want to look at Doubt, which seems like kind of a boring card. But it has awesome Palpatine on it. And all right, so it's a 0-cost villain gray event. So it can go in any villain deck. And it says roll an opponent's die, then that opponent can either resolve that die or remove it. So I see this as a kind of interesting 0-cost way to like remove an opponent's force throw die once they've rolled it out into the pool, or maybe a Millennium Falcon die if you are playing against a deck that has that. And it's not at first glance maybe the most powerful effect, but it's pretty interesting. You can use it on modified sides to try and get them to turn off those modifiers. Like if someone has their force pike, their lightsaber pike in play, and it's showing +4, and they got like a 1 somewhere. You play Doubt, and then they roll it and get like a shield or whatever that die has on it.
How about another +4? They can resolve that by itself.
Right, exactly. So
yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's a funny card to be really excited about. It's pretty boring. I think it says a lot about your personality, Mike.
Are you?
You're like, what I'm really excited about? It's unpredictable. I mean, it's amazing.
I know. I picked the worst cards, but I always like cheap removal, and this is cheap removal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really fair point. This actually could be a big time meta card if cards like Force Pike become really popular. I think that's a really great point, that if it has a plus side, it doesn't say resolve your dice, it says resolve that 1 single die. So you really should, in theory, be able to remove whatever die you roll, unless it's a force throw and they re-roll back to the special. But you could just do it before you roll out.
Right. And I mean, even if they re-roll it to the special, like they're throwing their own dice at you, which they're probably using against you anyway.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, it very well could be the best removal that we have now. I don't know. I'll have to really think about that. Anything for 0 where you don't even need a die out, right? He doesn't like you is the best removal. But if they go first and they roll that force throw special, you look at it and go, deep breath, okay.
Yeah.
How do I even get a die out? What's the worst die I could roll just to have a freaking die out to handle that stupid die? All right. Well done, sir. My next one is going to be Destiny. Destiny looks freaking nuts. I'm just gonna start there. Blue event, 0 cost, hero only, 0 cost. Mike, remember that.
Yeah.
Remove any number of your blue dice. Play a card from your hand for free that costs equal to or less than the combined value of the blue dice you just removed. So, let's say you have Ray in your deck, and you roll 2 plus 2s, and you're very sad. And then you play Destiny, and you play that one with a force in your hand for giving up your 2 plus 2s that weren't doing anything anyway. That sounds pretty darn good, Mike.
It does sound pretty good. It turns all of your dice, well, all of your blue dice into, instant resources that you don't have to waste actions spending.
Yeah. I feel like this card's a real game changer. I feel like it allows blue hero decks to ramp very quickly. And I like that. Blue villains already had this with Holocron, and it was somewhat limiting, but it was still amazing ramp. And now Blue Heroes also has amazing ramp that is somewhat limiting, and that you have to sort of give up a turn to do it. But I think it's well worth it, and I think it allows you to play more confidently some of those more expensive cards. Like in my Blue Hero decks, unless Poe's involved, I just flat out don't run Mind Probe. It's just not worth it. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
Even when I look at the Sabers, I'm always like, ugh, they're so dang expensive. I'll run a Luke Saber, but I cannot bring myself to run regular Sabers. This card just really opens up the possibilities, I feel like.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right. What's next for you, my man?
So taking a look at Synchronicity, which is, so a surprise, another 0 cost event. Play only if you have, it's a blue hero event. Play only if you have dice showing melee damage and shields. And it says simply deal 2 unblockable damage to a character. I think this card is nuts. The obvious, deck that this goes in is Rey and Qui-Gon, because they roll pretty much nothing but melee damage and shields. Yeah. And you're just dealing 2 unblockable damage from your hand for nothing. It's there's nothing else to say. It's so good.
I'm gonna say this. I don't really like the design of it. I don't like 0 cost stuff that's really powerful that you can't play around. And there's no way. I mean, you could say yes, you can play around this. All you have to do is remove their shields and or damage. That's very hard to do. In a deck like that.
Especially if you're throwing Vibro Knife on Rey and then rolling in and then just immediately doing this.
Yeah, I think Synchronicity is a little bit too powerful. I'm not saying it's like broken or even over the power curve, or not even necessarily at the top of the power curve. I just don't like how it's designed. That it just feels too easy to get 2 unblockable damage when you can't do much about it.
Yeah, I mean, like you're going to be able to get this off at a certain point of the game. Your opponent's not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah, and then with Return of the Jedi, you get to get it back. So you really have 8 unblockable damage theoretically that you get to do with that. And unblockable means, nearly a dead character there.
Yeah, and you don't have to remove your melee dice or your shield dice, so you get to just deal that damage. I mean, a 4-strike, yes, you get 3 damage out of it if you're playing Vader, let's say, but you were potentially going to get 3 damage anyway, so...
Yeah, and it's not unblockable. Unblockable is a big deal.
Yeah.
It really is. There's a lot of ways to get shields. There's a lot of ways to think you're safe, and then, bam. Who really hates this is someone named Count Dooku, something like that. Something like that. He really hates this card.
Count Dooku.
I feel like this set is a big middle finger to Count Dooku. Like, hey, Vibro Knife. Sorry, Dooku. Synchronicity. Sorry, my man.
Sorry, bud.
Remember when you thought you had 15 health? You got 10. You got 10 health. That's what you actually have.
Yep.
Yeah. Synchronicity is a really good card. I like it a lot. The last card that I have is Force Illusion. Force Illusion is a 1-cost upgrade ability, so it can be holocroned out. It's neutral and blue. And it says, before attached character takes damage, you may discard cards from the top of your deck equal to that damage to block it. Then discard this upgrade from play. It's a very interesting card because you don't have to do it, right? So if Someone hits you for 1, you just go, nah, that's cool. I'm fine. It's really great to put on someone like Vader or Dooku if you're playing against a damage that can do big bursts, like a Han deck that can go, 2 damage, a +3, and a +3, and there's nothing you can do about that. To be able to discard 6 cards, I guess that would be 8 cards, to stop that is very powerful. And what I love about the design is you have to discard them from your deck, and the deck isn't that big in this game. So if you discard 8, you might get milled. Like you think at the time, I'm fine. I never get milled with this deck, but you don't really think about how many cards 8 is until you start going 1, 2, 3. Oh, whoa, holy cow, that's a lot of cards.
Third of your deck, yeah.
So I very much like the design of this card. I think it's really cool. I do have a fear, Mike. I'm curious to hear what you think about this. There's a lot of healing in this game right now. I'm looking at, for example, say a hero mill deck that goes Lone Operative, Force Illusion, Force Heal, and then you still have Willpowers, you have Field Medics. That is a lot of healing for a deck that can mill you. It kind of scares me. I don't know if mill's going to be real or not, right? But if it is, I think those are going to be the cards that really propel it.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of options there. I mean, I think that's cool because it kind of creates another way to play the game in a way. I mean, you see healing in most red hero decks with Field Medic because of how solid it is. But to see a bunch of healing effects, I mean, I guess for each healing effect you put in your deck, you're leaving out something else. So if you're mostly focused on healing and mill, you're doing no damage probably. So, but then I guess if you're dealing no damage, you're blanking half the cards in your opponent's deck. So, who knows?
I'm totally torn on this, Mike, because it might be an amazing thing because it makes control decks more viable. Right. These aggro decks can't just burst them down, no problem. But then on the flip side, is it going to be too darn annoying, right? Like okay, I'm going to do some damage, and like, okay, cool, I will Lone Operative into a Field Medic into a Force Heal, so he's full health again. Oh, by the way, I'm going to put Second Chance on him in case you actually do kill him.
I think Second Chance is really what adds insult to injury there.
Yeah. So I don't know what to say. I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just saying it's on my radar as something I'm definitely going to try that I'm a little bit worried about, and we'll have to see.
Yeah, one interesting thing about this card is that it says discard cards from the top of your deck equal to that damage to block it.
Yep.
So I'm guessing that unblockable damage still works.
I think so. I really do.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Unblockable damage is getting really, really good. Really good. Because there's a lot of stuff. Armor plating is the same way. I ran armor plating against a Rey Qui-Gon deck, and it was really annoying because half of the effects were just 1 damage, and armor plating says you can discard to stop 2. So it's like, that's not reasonable. And then the other effects were like endless synchronicities. And I'm like, God dang it.
And Vibro Knife, which just makes all of their damage unblockable.
Yeah, exactly. So I never actually triggered the armor plating. Vader got to about 12 and didn't actually die, but I never triggered it. I was just like, I don't know what to do. Yep. It's a very weird game. All right, well, let's move on to an archetype that each of us are kind of looking at as a real possibility with these new cards, or maybe adding to it. I want to start with Hyperloop. Hyperloop got a lot better. I think it got so much better that it needs now an errata. I was a firm believer before that it did not need an errata, not because it wasn't annoying. Oh, it was annoying. But I don't really believe that annoying is enough for errata. But there's one new card now that really adds to it, which is Planetary Uprising, which is a 2-cost support, so it's kind of expensive, but it's amazing. We talked about before. After you claim the battlefield, force an opponent to deal 2 damage to their characters, distribute as they wish. But the problem before with Hyperloop is you would have to get ahead, because if you ever try to start looping your opponent and just claiming the battlefield over and over, you didn't gain anything, and at some point they were going to disrupt you and do a pile of damage. And so you had to have a big lead if you wanted to try to time out for the win. And if you wanted to try to use the Hyperloop more legitimately, which is something like, I'm negating your god rolls, but I'm still trying to beat you. You still had to beat them. You had to come up with the rolls at the right time, and it was very difficult. And it just feels like you throw down 2 planetary uprisings and start looping the battlefield, and you win in about 5-6 turns, and that feels really broken to me.
Yeah, it turns a combo that just stalls you out to a combo that literally kills you, and you can't do anything about it. I mean, like, you can, I guess, claim before they do, but then they have their entire turn to just do whatever they want to you.
Yeah.
You could also potentially remove the Falcon die, but you can only do that so many times, and you only have those windows of opportunity to actually do anything against your opponent.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you're still going to run 2 copies of Cunning in this deck. So it's
right.
Early game, yes, you can just neutralize the Falcon, but as you get more into the mid and late games, you have to handle the Cunnings also. And so what we always said before was it's okay because if you just play smart and craft a hand, you're going to get 1 to 2 turns where you can disrupt all their stuff, do a bunch of damage on them, and then win when it goes to time because you'll have more damage done. But Planetary Uprising destroys that. You cannot just get 2 turns. You have to actually find a way every turn to fight back, and I just don't think you can with Planetary Uprising.
Yeah, I agree. I found out about this combo on Saturday, I believe, when one of my friends told me about it, and then I put the deck together just to see how gross it actually was, and it was pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, once you get that combo out, it's just game over.
Yeah, I played 2 games on Tabletop Simulator earlier. The second one was against a mill deck, and that was really challenging because they milled a lot of important cards, including the Falcon. But I had Scavenge as well because I decided that since this one all you need is the combo, Scavenge is definitely right. You just got to get the combo. I even played Ascension Guns so that if they got the battlefield, which he did, I could still do some triggering off of that battlefield. And so I was able to barely eke out a win. But interestingly, I lost the first game against Elite Snap Wexley. I didn't draw well. He got a lot of disrupt on me, so he was able to remove a lot of resources. But it'd be really interesting if Snap Wexley becomes the best card in the game because everyone's running Hyperloop till it gets errated. And so Snap Wexley is your man.
the hero of episode 7.
That's right. Clearly the hero of episode 7.
Yep.
So I want to start a new segment called "Do we ban this? Do we errata this somehow, or do we leave it alone?" I'm stealing this, by the way, from the White Book, otherwise known as Two Champs and a Chump. So, Will, if you're listening, props to you, my man. What do you think? And if we're going to do something about Hyperloop, what do you even do?
It's tricky. I think you just make there's two ways that I like. Either making Hyperspace Jump leave the game after you play it, or forcing you to change the battlefield when you play Hyperspace Jump.
Oh, that's very intriguing. My problem with having it leave the game is that's not a mechanic.
Right,
that's
exactly.
Not in the rule book.
Yeah.
It would be a whole new mechanic. I think it's the easy answer, but the question is, do we really introduce a new mechanic to handle one deck?
Just for this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the part I don't like about that. Otherwise, I love it. I think it's the obvious answer. I do kind of like that idea that you have to switch with Hyperloop. So if you want to end the turn, you can really only do the jump every other turn. The problem is you can still... Well, I mean, you can still end the...
You can still roll naturally, right?
Right. You can roll it naturally. You can Cunning it. You can Ascension Gun the other one. You have to work a little bit harder. Yeah. And I would have said that's fine with the old Hyperloop, but even every other turn doing 4 damage with Uprising might be too much.
It's pretty nuts. Yeah, I mean, I'm a person who generally doesn't like erratas. Coming from the Star Wars LCG, which I actually only played for about 4 months or so, from this past like August until maybe December. But getting into the game was like super annoying because every deck that I put together either had cards that couldn't be put together in the same deck or just did completely different things.
Yeah, that game was not designed well. Oftentimes, I was a person who played that game as well for about a year, and finally got out because I was like, I can't do this anymore. You guys do not know what you're doing with this game. It could have been cool, but it ain't.
Yeah, I liked a lot of the mechanics about it, and it was fun, but man, it was such a pain in the ass to deck build.
Yep, and I think Lucas and the design team seem very hesitant to do erratas, and I think we've seen that through set one. Like, it's pretty clear that Holocron needs an errata, and it's pretty clear that Hyperloop needs an errata. Not because Hyperloop's broken, but because it's incredibly annoying. And neither of them got it, and I'm fine with that because their motto is basically, if it's not totally broken, we would rather not fix them, and I can get that. But I think now we've reached that point where something has to be done. All right.
What would you do?
I think you have to do, when you play Hyperspace, it's removed from the game.
Yeah.
I don't love that we're making a new mechanic just to handle it. But I definitely am not a fan of leaving it alone. I don't think you can do that. I think it was a bad move to leave it alone last time around, not because it was unbeatable. Good players could handle it no problem, but because the whole point of this game seems to be that it's very accessible. And playing against a Hyperloop player is not accessible. They win 80% of their games automatically just on the fact that their opponent is bewildered as to what is going on.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so that's our answer there. And I just want to say this, FFG, if you're gonna go ahead and errata a card, why not hit Holocron while you're there? Why not? Just make it say discard to use it. You get one awesome jump out of it, and then you can still get it back if you want to build a deck around it. Just saying. What do you think, Mike? Would you Holocron? Would you errata Holocron if we're already going to open up the Pandora's box that is erratas?
Probably. I would still play it in every blue villain deck if it's a discard. So.
Yeah. But here's another question: would you errata it if it's the only card in the pool you're going to errata?
Probably not. I mean, it's already not in every single winning deck, so it's not like it's.
I feel the same way. I feel like it's right on that edge of needing an errata and wanting an errata. And if it's only on the edge, then let's not open the box yet, right? Let's seal that box up for another day. But now we have to open it for Hyperloop 2.0. It's just too good. All right, Mike, what's the build that you're looking forward to? What archetype are you looking forward to exploring?
I'm really interested by Snap. And this comes from absolutely nothing other than the fact that he seems like he has a pretty cool ability. I haven't had a ton of chance to play with the new cards because I'm still in Awakenings mode for Worlds. But I think a pretty cool like hero control deck's gonna pop up with this guy in it.
Yeah, I mean, him with Planetary Uprising on its own is really good. I mean, you basically have to kill Snap Wexley or remove his die. And so the way I'm looking at Snap, like the guy who played Elite Snap against me, I think that's crazy town. I would play one die Snap and have 21 left where they have to kill Snap or you just wreck them with the battlefield every single turn. I think that's crazy.
Yeah. I think that's probably the way to build it. I mean, you do get 2 dice in the pool for them to remove if you play him with 2 dice, but I mean, like his dice aren't really doing that much. So
yeah, I mean, you're basically doing him for the disrupt so they can't claim the battlefield. And maybe if you're so all in, it works in that way. But I don't think you want to go that all in. I think 21 gives you a lot of room to actually kill people.
Yes.
I mean, just go Elite Ray. You still have 9. That's a lot. That's a 4 dice deck that probably rolls a lot of damage. Has the Planetary Uprising. It just wrecks people. All right. Yep. So Snap, I don't know. There's going to be a bunch of decks with Snap. I don't know if they're going to be top level or not. That's what I'm interested in with a new set, right? Is that some of the cards are real easy to evaluate. This one's over the top. This one is overcosted. Snap is that weird intermediary card where one half of you goes, this dude is garbage. And the other half goes, maybe? Maybe?
Yeah, exactly. It's the in me that wants to just kind of figure out how to, what makes them work.
Yep. All right. I want to move away from spoilers and talk about Awakenings. I know, it's weird. There's actually a set available that we can play with people. It's not Spirit of Rebellion. But I've been playing more and more with EPhasma Bala Trooper. And I know, don't overreact. I'm not trying to claim this is a new deck that I just discovered, this earth-shattering discovery. I realize people have been playing this for a long time. I've actually gotten many messages. Tiny, what is your problem? It's not even on your tier list. Are you insane, or did you just fall down and hit your head? The answer is neither, though I might be insane. I just don't think I am. I don't think so. But my mama never had me tested. All right, so that was supposed to be a joke, man. You're supposed to be laughing about that.
No, I'm just kidding.
There we go. Well done, sir. But I never played it because I'd always kind of looked at it as, well, why? Why wouldn't I just play Jango? Jango is better. Like, I mean, I don't think you can really debate just in a vacuum which character is better, Jango or Phasma. I think Jango is the answer. The difference, though, is that with Phasma, you're more easily able to get to that end game scenario of, 3 upgrades on Phasma against whatever they have, and you usually can't get there with Jango. If you go Jango double trooper, Jango dies immediately. If you play Jango Veers, well, whoever gets the upgrades is going to die. And then if you go one die Jango Bala Trooper, Jango's not that scary. He only has 1 die. So what are your thoughts on this deck? I want to make a claim, and I want to see what you agree, if you agree, that it is the most consistent tier 1 deck that we have.
I think it's definitely one of the most consistent tier 1 decks for sure. Yeah, I think that's largely due to its flexibility as well. It is just super solid.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of plus sides in the deck. I mean, there will be on your weapons, but Phasma Bala Trooper just has the 1 plus side on Bala. Phasma with her focus sides makes it so that even when you do have that weird roll, you're often able to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things you can do to ensure that you're doing damage every turn. And I think a lot of that has to do with the die spread. Like if you swapped out Phasma for Jango, which is what most people play, or what I've seen most people play, you're going down to single die Jango, which you already talked about a little bit. But
yeah.
Phasma with 2 dice is so much better than Jango with 1 die.
Yeah, I think that is very clear.
And like while Phasma has 2 dice, you can be protecting her with the threat of Bala T getting scary, or the Guardian that you have on the Trooper.
I think that's the strongest thing about the deck is that you have Phasma out, and let's say you put promotion on her turn 1, and they're like, ooh, Phasma with 3 dice, and then you go turn 2 holdout blaster on Bala. They look at that and go, oh no, this could really go sideways. I do only have 2 characters, but when he kills this first character of mine, he very well may have 3 upgrades on Bala by then if I don't kill Bala. Mm-hmm. So I need to kill Bala. But it's hard to kill Bala because you have this darn trooper with Guardian. Yep. So it's like, you really need to kill the trooper first, but no one wants to kill the trooper first, because if you kill the trooper first, Bala wrecks you once, and then all those weapons go over to Phasma after you kill Bala, and it's this crazy scenario where it's kind of unclear who you're supposed to kill, and even if you have a really good, clear plan, it's not as easy to enact as you would like.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most powerful things about the deck for sure. You kind of split your opponent's focus and make it difficult for them to choose who to go for, and none of the answers are necessarily good.
Yeah, I think that's what's so important, right? That even like what usually happens is you can make your opponent make a tough choice, but there's a right choice, and the really good opponent sees it, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas with this deck, there might be a right choice, and that right choice may be just to kill the trooper, but man, that feels like a wrong choice. Like, yeah. that quote right choice doesn't help you a whole lot.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the deck is good at being able to kind of change gears when once you see what your opponent's actually trying to do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like if they do go for Phasma for some reason, then you have so many different options to keep her alive and to load up the other guys and just say, okay, fine, you'll eventually kill Phasma, but when you do, it's going to take you a while, and I'm going to have a trooper and a Bala each with 3 weapons. Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for me, the more I've been playing it, the more I found I really like the consistency of the deck. I don't believe I've actually lost with it yet. Now, that doesn't mean a lot, right? I mean, a skilled player is going to win most games with most decks because this is a skill game. But I've just felt like I get a lot more god rolls with the deck late game because the dice are so consistent, and there's a lot less of those moments where you're like, I just need 2 damage to kill this guy, and then you just whiff over and over because it's very hard to just flat whiff with the deck. They really have to have answers.
Yeah, it's difficult. But this is one of the decks that I've played most, and I haven't played it in a few weeks because it got to the end of the game and I had 5 upgrades on or 3 upgrades on Phasma, and I needed 3 damage to kill my opponent, and I'd rolled 0.
Was it just
so,
one roll, or did you have like several actions to be able to re-roll and fix your dice?
in this scenario, it was only 1 roll.
Yeah.
But that kind of it made me want to take a little bit of a break from the deck.
See,
but I
it's
think
funny you would say that, Mike, because to me, that's fine. Like, that's what all decks do. That all decks have that moment where you should win, and you miss, and you lose. But the difference with this deck is other decks will re-roll and keep missing, whereas this deck, I feel like it doesn't. If you get a couple re-rolls, you're gonna get a Phasma focus side. You're gonna hit some damage. It's going to happen with several re-rolls, whereas other decks just don't always have that.
Yeah, I think that's right, and it's definitely a deck that I'm gonna go back to and kind of start playing more again.
Yeah, for me, I'm not going to Worlds, so I have a very. It's really easy for me to just sit in my chair and be like, "This is what I would play at Worlds." But I think I would be very serious about this deck and really trying every matchup against the Gauntlet to figure out how does it do against the Gauntlet. On paper, I think it does well, and its consistency is so good that I think I would play it. But what I want to do real quick is talk about this difference between consistent and high ceiling. So the question, Mike, is do you think because it's maybe the most consistent deck, it makes it the best deck, or do you think a deck with a much higher ceiling, like say a Poe Ray or a Vader Raider, becomes the best deck just because if you roll well, you just win, whereas Phasma, you need some weapons. You got to find the pieces, and then it sort of becomes this ultra consistent deck. Which way do you lean? Which do you think is better?
Uh, I would say that I enjoy playing a more consistent deck better, but I mean, I don't know. I've had success with and failure with either.
Yeah.
Playing a deck with a higher ceiling is higher upside, and I don't know if it's more potential to win, but and like being high ceiling, the question I guess becomes like, are you winning more often, or are you winning by more every time that you win?
Yeah. And the wins feel better, right? Because it's just like, well, that was easy. This deck's amazing. Right. It wins on turn 2. I love this deck.
Right. But then it loses, on turn 8 every other time. So it's kind of tricky. I would lean towards consistency personally.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that you said, and that is that I personally like consistency more than high ceilings. But that's been to my detriment in several games. I've often gravitated towards the more consistent deck, even if I knew it was a little bit worse. I just don't like the feeling of high ceiling, low floor decks where they can just lose the game and there's nothing I can do. But what's more frustrating than that even is when you play the consistent deck that you know what it's going to do, and then you play against a high ceiling deck and it gets the ceiling and blows you out, and that player is not that skilled. You know that player, you've played with them before, And that's when it gets really frustrating. You start looking at that high ceiling deck going, you know what? A good player with a high ceiling deck can do even better. So maybe that's where I need to be at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm quite torn on it myself. If you were to go to Worlds today, if you were to hop on a plane right now, would you be more inclined to play Vader Raider or Phasma Bala Trooper?
That is a great question. Over the past maybe 2 weeks, I've been trying to play nothing but Vader Raider just to, kind of prepare a bit and see if that's the deck that I want to bring. And I go back and forth like every day on whether it is or not. I think if it was tomorrow, I think yes, because I have been playing it so much. Just because I have it fresh in my mind, like I sort of know the different things that I'm going to see and what to do. But when it comes to actually a month from now, I have no idea if I'll be bringing that or not.
That's fair. I think that's a really great point just for Worlds prep, which we're going to talk about in a moment anyway, is you need to play your deck a lot. I would say it's getting to be time where you need to isolate a deck you're taking. People out there listening, if you're going to Worlds, if you play as much as Mike does, you could probably wait till about 2 weeks out, as long as you're going to play a lot and not get burnt out, by the way, which can be very challenging with a dice game. I like to go about 3 weeks out, lock in a deck, play a good 30 games with that deck against all the meta decks. What I also like to do is just take that deck on Tabletop Simulator or whatever platform it is for whatever game I'm playing. I just play against randoms a couple times. Because randoms will play crazy decks that you're not ready for, right? You don't have random crazy decks in your gauntlet, right? You're like, all right, this deck beats every deck in the gauntlet. And then they're like, really? Does it beat Finn Leia? And you're like, I really have no idea if it beats Finn Leia. And it also, even if you know you're going to crush that, it really helps you get out of this mindset of having a firm plan and again, realizing like, oh, right, this is a game that I have to be very careful about and think and react and really get in that mode. So those are two things. Lock in your deck early, play a gauntlet, and just play some randoms as well.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice.
All right, well, let's move on to Worlds Prep then. We are doing a series here. Last week we did how to beat Vader Raider. This week we're going to do how to handle Poe Ray. And you might be thinking, what? There's a lot of good decks out there. Why are we choosing Poe Ray? The reason I want to talk about Poe Ray is I feel like it's had a lot of good results lately in especially online tournaments. There was Artificery had a tournament where, what did it take? Second and third? Was that what it got?
I think I'm pretty sure it was second and third. I know that it was in two of them were represented in the top four. I don't know exactly the standings.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure one got second and one got top four. And that's pretty good results. And I've seen some other people have really good results with it. And for me personally, I've always labeled this deck as the highest ceiling, but it doesn't just have a floor, it has a basement. Like you can step into a basement with no stairs and break your neck. That's how bad this deck can play. And so for me, I've always steered clear of it, and unless I just want a fun time, right? But for the last couple weeks, I probably played about 6 games with it to really, now that these lists have become a little bit more optimized, certainly back when I was playing it, just having fun with it as my funsies deck, it wasn't optimized. So I've been trying it, and you know what I found, Mike?
What have you found?
That's exactly what I thought. Half the time, I just blow people out. Half the time, I fall through a hole and break my neck and lose. So I do want to talk about how you can play around it, but one of the main ways to play around this deck is to hope it breaks its neck. Like, that happens. Last night was a great example. I was playing my friend John, turn 1, roll post special, boom, oh yeah. In my opening hand, I had no cards to throw at him with a special, so I had mulliganed all 5. New hand, none, not a 1. And so he's freaking out. He doesn't have any removal. He has to leave it on the board, and I don't resolve it, and he laughs hysterically. Turn 2, I end up using my whole hand for re-rolls just so I can draw into some cards. Turn 2 comes along. I rolled a special again, Mike. The world is on fire. Oh, wait, again. I didn't have anything to throw at him.
Oh, my gosh.
And remember, this isn't me playing some crazy list. This is me playing the decks that have been winning. Turn 3 and on, I had lots of stuff. And I never rolled another special again the whole game. Despite how many rerolls I did, it didn't matter. I couldn't get it. And he had gotten the battlefield because I had rolled 2 and he had rolled 3 to take the battlefield. So I consider that falling down and breaking your neck when you're playing a deck.
That's generally how it goes for me when I try to play that deck as well.
Yeah. And then I had another game where it was just like, all right, I have the battlefield. Cool. Every single turn, I get to end the turn by doing 3 damage, and I do several damage during the turn. I win, right? We're done? Cool. Good game, man. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's talk about what this deck is trying to do, what you can do to stop it. So, Mike, how would you describe what this deck is trying to do?
So I think what you want to be doing with it is kind of building up Ray so that once Poe dies and you can't use this special to, just deal 5 damage from your hand, you can actually do, something. And I mean, the bread and butter really is the Poe special.
Yeah, I mean, Poe special is definitely the bread and butter. I'm not sure I totally agree with you that you want to build up Ray. That's certainly how I had been building it before. I'm looking for the list right now, but I'm pretty sure most of these lists, here's one, that people are playing don't have a ton of stuff to build up Ray. So they've got the 2 force throws. It's got holdout blasters. It's got robes, which aren't really building her up. It has lightsabers, which are kind of, but you're usually chucking them. It has mind probes, which are not playing on Ray. It does have Ray's staff and one with a force. So it kind of feels like you get some stuff on Ray, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like when I play against people that they're really trying to load up Ray. It seems much more all in on Poe is going to do sick, disgusting things to you, and you are going to die.
Yeah, it kind of pulls you in 2 directions because the upgrades that you're throwing away with Poe's special are things that could be, being used on Ray.
Right.
Or Poe. But yeah, I mean, I don't know who would you say is the target here?
I think you kill Poe. I think if you kill Ray, it's interesting because if you kill Ray, you get to take away 2 cheats with the holdout blaster. That's not that many. You do get to take away the comlink cheats, which also is pretty good. But if you go for Ray and you can't kill her almost immediately, they're probably going to stick one with a force on her.
Yeah,
and that's even worse, right? Then you have 2 Poe dice that's going to chuck stuff all game with the battlefield, and then also have a character, basically another character in Obi-Wan. What have you been finding? Because I know yesterday, John actually killed Ray both games first. I was very surprised.
I go back and forth on this one all the time. Ray's just a lot easier to kill. And I think it depends on what deck I'm playing. If I think that I can kill Ray faster than they can put one with the force on, then I will probably go for Ray. The other thing is that, barring the battlefield, which we'll talk about in a minute, like Poe's, hitting that special, it's only a 1 in 6. So,
yeah,
where it's super highly, impactful. It doesn't happen every time, and I certainly know that when I play it, it doesn't happen every time.
I feel like it happens pretty much every time, especially
against you.
Especially when I'm playing Poe, especially if they kill Ray first, it becomes really easy to just roll his dice, do 2 damage, and claim. And so we should talk about that real quick. The battlefield it uses is Emperor's Throne Room, which says claim, turn 1 of your dice to a side showing a special, then you may resolve that die. So you basically get to go, I roll Poe's dice out, I have a mind probe in hand. You know what? First action, I'll just claim the battlefield and do 5 damage to you by triggering Poe's ability and throwing this out at your face.
Yeah, I mean, in the end game, that definitely becomes really, really potent. It's just a guaranteed Raider mind probe play. Yeah,
exactly. And there's really no way to play around it when he has 2 dice at the end, and that's why It's a really weird thing. If you kill Poe first, then you're dealing with a very, very incompetent Rey, unless they find the right pieces like a staff and a lightsaber and haven't thrown all those cards away to Poe already. I just feel like when I'm playing the deck and they kill Poe first, I go, oh, how am I supposed to win now? I don't understand. Rey is garbage. What do I do? And when they kill Rey first, I kind of look at him funny. I'm like, okay, so you're basically telling me I'm going to get to claim every single time and do 3 to 5 damage to you, in addition to Poe's die, his other die.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't have upgrades really, and so it is a really interesting question. I'm not 100% sure on the answer. I still think the answer is you kill Poe first, but I don't know. I could be convinced that maybe Rey's the answer.
Yeah, I think more often than not, I do kill Poe first, but I think you have to kind of look at the situation and go from there.
Okay, I think that's fair. Let's talk about some of the cards that you need to really be on the lookout for. So one of them is you can get mind probed if their battlefield is up. You can actually get mind probed at any point. So if they roll out and 5 kills Vader but 4 doesn't, you probably just want to play a card in case they mind probe you.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have, what I mean is if you have one character that everything is built upon, and if that character dies now, you lose the game. You need to know, unless there's 2 mind probes in that discard pile, it could happen. How many
100%.
times has that happened to you where someone has just rolled out and then claimed and killed a guy with mind probe?
A lot.
Yeah, it's happened to me maybe twice. And what I mean is early game, right? Like when you wouldn't expect that like you're like, there's no way they're gonna do it, and then you're like, oh well, it does just kill this guy, and they're like, yeah, and he's dead. You're like, oh my goodness, Are you kidding me? You just killed him. And oftentimes it's me trying to be smart, even like, okay, I'm going to play a card because my guy has exactly 4, and that way if he re-rolls or like. He would really have to just claim the battlefield to make it worth it, and then they do, and you're like, oh my God, it was worth it. Now I have this one garbage character. It doesn't matter that you gave up your whole turn because I have nothing.
Yep.
All right. So what is something that you're always on the lookout for when you're playing against Poe Rey?
Definitely the defensive stance. That one is
defensive position. You mean?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yep, so defensive position is a 1-cost red hero event that says, remove all of an opponent's dice showing a value of 2 or higher.
That wrecks a lot of decks.
Yeah, you know what really wrecks really, really hard is Vader Raider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Vader Raider does not like that card. What I don't like about this card when I'm playing this deck is I feel like good players can kind of play around it. It's a little bit harder if you're playing Vader Raider. But even if you're playing Vader Raider and you roll a 2 and a blank, they have a tough choice. Do they really use their one big bad boy removal card for your 1/2? Does that really feel worth it?
I would say yes.
And you may be right that it is worth it. But when you're playing that deck and someone plays smartly around your plays and doesn't re-roll the Vader into it, it just feels bad that's the plays you have to make. And I think this is a place where you can really exploit this deck because it doesn't have much removal. It has 2 defensive positions, 2 deflects, and then relies on, hitting Comlink at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. It just doesn't have a lot of removal.
That's for sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. It does. It has Force Misdirection as well. And we'll get to that in a moment.
Right, which is another card that you can sort of semi-play around. Yeah. But then it also has Dug In, right? And it has Field Medic, which are sort of like removal before and after the fact. Yeah,
and basically health gain. I mean, that's hard to play around. It's very hard to play around health gain. Let's talk about that real quick. You have to know they have Field Medic, okay? They just have it. So here's a scenario and what I mean. Let's say you get to be cute. So their Poe is at 10, okay? You roll out 4 damage, and you have a backup muscle in hand, and you could kill Poe. But it's all linked together into one chain, and you don't really want to raise 2 damage. So you go, you know what? I got a plan here. I'm going to do 4 to Rey, and then I'm going to backup muscle Poe for 1, and then at the beginning of the next turn, it doesn't matter what he does as his first action, I'll just kill him with backup muscle. That doesn't always happen, Mike. That doesn't always happen.
It does. It definitely does not always happen.
Right. They don't have to have field medic in their hand, right? They just claim the battlefield, discard to do 3 damage to you, discard the rest of their hand, draw back up, first play, field medic, F you. And you're like, no, what just happened? All my plans are blown up. Because it's a really smart play to make plays like that, right? Where you just don't waste damage because you know you have this really slick kill. And when they can play around it like that, you really have to be aware of that because that can be utterly devastating. That could be 2 more turns of Poe living when he should be dead.
Yeah, 100%. I've played games against John where Poe has effectively had probably 30 health on his own between dug-ins and field medics and all kinds of other stupid things.
Yeah. And dug-in is another problem. I mean, if you can claim the battlefield against this deck, you need to do it. It's hard to do it, but if you can turn off defensive position, dug in, and them chucking 3 damage at your face, you need to look at your board and go, is it really worth it for me to resolve 2 damage when I can turn off all of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the deck I claimed the earliest against. I've claimed crazy early against this deck at various times where I've kind of read my opponent and the way they've handled their hand the last 2 turns, maybe saving a card. You can tell they want to chuck at my face. And, you know, if they're saving a bunch of cards, it means they probably have the big blowout play, the defensive position, right? And they're just waiting for that moment. And if you can wrest the battlefield away from them, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, let's talk about Force Misdirection. This is a card that if you are aware of it, it's not that bad. If you are not aware of it, it's the best card in the game.
Yeah.
All right, so this says 1 cost, blue hero event. Choose a symbol showing on one of your blue dice, then remove all an opponent's dice showing that symbol. So, Mike, the best piece of advice I want to give with this card is do not get in your head it removes melee or it removes range. Because if you start thinking that way, you will walk into problems. And what I mean is, let's say you're playing a range deck and your opponent is Rey and they don't have range. They don't have a force throw. So you think to yourself, you know what? I don't need the battlefield. I don't need to roll out ahead of Rey because they still can't misdirection me. And so I'll let them roll first. And they roll a blank, a resource, and a melee. And you roll out your 5-die Django and you hit 4 resources. And you're like, that's cool. I'm just going to re-roll. It's fine. What is going to happen to you, Mike?
You're about to lose 4 dice.
Yeah, they're gonna trigger it on the resource. So you really and it can be hard to take that shortcut away, right? Because you know what they want to do theoretically is remove your damage, but they can blow up a whole turn with this card, and so it's another reason to want the battlefield to be able to roll out ahead of Rey, to be able to get out ahead of that misdirection. If you can always be ahead of the misdirect, it's not that bad. But if you get behind it, you really have to think carefully as you're rolling. When you see their smattering of dice, you have to think carefully about their deck size, how much it would wreck you. Try to bait it out with something that you care a little bit less out. Don't roll the 5 Django into that. Roll out the Trooper with the F11 and let them potentially take 2 dice. And if they don't, re-roll those 2 dice, right? Treat it as if they have misdirect. Because if you don't and you walk into it, you will lose half of a turn.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, but on the flip side, I don't think that card is that good because I think good players do avoid it. And I think it becomes a card that sits in hands a long time, and the longer it sits in a hand, the more you know they have it, right? Because you're watching that, right? You're watching the board and going, would they play a misdirect here? I don't think they would. I don't think they would play it here if I play it like this. And then you can really see it coming.
Yeah, it's easier to play around than you think.
Yeah. So what's another card people need to be aware of, or a combo they need to be aware of with this deck?
Probably using Poe's special to force throw something at you.
that is really annoying. That is very annoying. Yeah, they don't just have to throw stuff from their hand. They can force throw a card on the board. You can force throw from hand. I'm sorry, you can't use his ability to go from board, but you can use the battlefield right? To just force throw something that's on the board. And yeah, like you said, force throwing from hand can be surprising and devastating. Yeah, he's really annoying.
There's just a lot of things in this deck that you have to kind of like keep in the back of your mind when you're playing against it. Like, oh, he can do this to wreck me. He can do this to wreck me.
Yeah.
And then just you play around it the best that you can, and then cross your fingers the rest of the time.
Yeah, that's what I hate about playing against this deck and playing with it. Is there's a lot of crossing fingers, right? If they get the ceiling, there's not a ton you can do about it. If they just go hit and run, roll Poe, hit a special, do Mind Probe for 5. You're just looking at him and going,
yeah,
you know what, man? Like, I don't know what to say about that. It all had to be perfect for you, but it was, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Yep.
And it's not like that never happens. That happens regularly. That's just a normal play that deck makes.
That happens most of the time against me when I play against that deck.
So John was playing this. We played 2 games 2 weeks ago, and he played, over the 2 games, 2 hit and runs. All 4 of the hit and runs, Poe came up with resource blank. And he lost every game.
Oh my gosh.
Because he didn't get the ceiling, he got the fall into the basement break your neck version of the deck. And it was just a really frustrating moment for him. I mean, he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is what this deck does, and it's not doing it. It's very frustrating. Another play to really look out for is Comlink on Ray. Not Comlink how Mike does it, where he sticks it on, like Phasma or Leia, and then just hopes that you roll damage and then dies. When you play it on Ray, it's really frustrating because they can either use it to just kill you. You have to be aware of this at all times. If they haven't played it yet and they have several dice on the board, they may just comlink their own dice, get a bunch of damage, and resolve them and kill you. That's always on the table. Or they might just disrupt all your dice, which I think is less bad than the surprise kill out of nowhere.
Yeah, 100%. It turns Comlink into that card that we talked about earlier that I like, Battle Formation.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Tactical Mastery, reroll and then blow you up.
Yep, it's really strong. You need to be aware of it, and you just need to be aware. And I think most people are by now that Ray does crazy cheating things. I mean, you think, okay, I'm fine. I'm purposely claiming early. I'm going to get out ahead. I have this ATST. I don't want that. I don't want it to get force throwed. I'm fine. And then they go something like Holdout Blaster onto Ray, overwrite it with a force throw, roll Ray, hit the special, throw your ATST back in your face. Like, these crazy plays happen against this deck. And you just always have to have in your mind, like, what's in the discard pile? What cheating effects have I seen? What's still available? And it's just, you can play it 2 ways, right, Mike? You can either do the cross your fingers and hope they fall and break their neck, or you can be very methodical and always looking and thinking about what is left in the deck. How many defensive possessions are left? How many misdirects are left? How many cheat plays are left? What all do they have available to them? And try your best to play around. This is the hardest deck I've found to actually play around their outs because they have so many and they're so crazy and they're so cheating that it's hard to play around them. But you can up your chances a bit if you really do think about them carefully and play around them.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's super difficult because of how many there are and because of how varied they are. But it can be done.
Yeah, it can be done, and then sometimes it's just fall down and hurt themselves, and then you're fine. That's what I'm always cheering for. All right, cool, you whipped again. I win. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, just in case you didn't know, you can check out the Smugglers Den on iTunes, on whatever podcast service. And, if you're so inclined, go on there, leave us a nice review. It actually helps a lot when people search for Star Wars Destiny podcast. If you hate the show, you know what? You don't have to leave a review. You don't have to. I won't make you. So thanks again for coming on, Mike. And anything you want to plug, or where can people find you on the internet?
Thanks for having me. You can check out swdestiny.com. We got a bunch of articles up about the new cards, the new set. I have every card of Spirit of Rebellion except for one in the card image gallery.
What's the one? You just hate that card so much you won't put it up?
It's a mystery. Actually,
it's a mystery? You don't know yet?
No, it's I don't exactly remember. It's so some kind of red card, but I couldn't find a good scan of it.
Gotcha.
So if anybody has a good scan, send it my way.
So if someone has a good scan of a card
Yeah,
that
and
Mike
can
doesn't
find the
know
one
the
that I'm
name
missing.
of, send it in.
Exactly. I think it's Imperial War Machine. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. And so yeah, check that out. We are on all the different social media things, so I'm sure you guys can find us there. And in Discord, I am Rebel Spy on there. So if you want to chat, hit me up.
All right. You can find me, Tiny Grimes, pretty much everywhere. YouTube, on Twitter, I'm Tiny Grimes Games if you want to follow me there. I've actually been streaming some SOR stuff, and we'll continue, and having a lot of fun with that. So come on over to Twitch TV Tiny Grimes, and thanks so much for coming by, Mike. And it was a good show. Hopefully you agreed. I thought it was a great show. What do you think, Mike?
I think it was a fantastic show.
Oh, I like that. All right, so we'll see you next time on the Smugglers Den.